Hey, this is Jim McDonald. Welcome to episode 232 of the PowerCast. In this episode, Mark talks about how he has added some carbohydrates back into his diet, which is apparently a big deal. We also cover a number of topics that all of you came up with, and we unpack some of the response to the Andy Galpin episodes from last week. You will want to join us on Wednesday for Brian Shaw and his lovely wife, because it's a great episode. But beyond that, we have a special deal with Reebok, especially for PowerCast listeners and viewers, that you will want to hear. So we'll see you then.
Support for this episode of the PowerCast comes from Precision Nutrition, home of the world's top nutrition coaches. Head over to get.pn/PowerCast for a free nutrition course, especially for PowerCast listeners, focusing on the role of carbs. That's get.pn/PowerCast. Reebok.com, home of the Legacy Lifting Shoe, the official shoe of the PowerCast at Reebok.com. 8Man Strong Apparel for people who lift heavy weights at 8manstrong.com. Compex Muscle Stim products at CompexUSA.com. Use the code PowerCast for an additional 28% off all but the lowest price model. HowMuchYouBench.net. Use the code PowerCast for 15% off slingshots and free shipping on orders over $100. And Bodybuilding.com, the world's largest fitness website and supplement store. Bodybuilding.com has free plans for every level. Visit Bodybuilding.com today to become your best self.
Recorded live in West Sacramento, California, this is Mark Bell's PowerCast. Standing just to the left of Jim McD, here's your host, Mark Bell.
The acoustics in this room are just different.
It's pretty fucking quiet.
Yeah, it's relatively quiet. It's not too bad. And the AC's not running like a beast today.
It's nice that it's sustainable in here without hearing all the fucking gunshots from across the street there from the police academy. We have CHP, I think, is over there.
Yeah.
And I think it's like a housing. I think they have like people
They have
sleeping
dorms
over
there,
right?
I think, yeah.
And there's fucking gunfire and police chases, simulated police chases going on all the time. Which I was kind of like concerned about when we moved here, because I was like, is that just going to be like super loud? And it is kind of loud when you're outside, but I haven't noticed it.
I hadn't noticed it yet. I mean, I knew it was there, but I didn't realize that was.
I'm like, what the fuck do they have over there? Semi-automatic weapons and shit?
Yeah, it's like
but it might be all people going at once. I'm not sure how it works.
It's it's training. It's like basic for CHP.
Basic bitches.
And then I think maybe they do retraining and stuff like that. Skill upgrade, all that kind of stuff there too. I'm not sure.
And we're inside the new gym, and we have been for a little bit. We've interviewed several people in here, and I really liked interviewing Andy Galpin inside the gym. So hopefully we can get to do that more. Hopefully we can get occasionally, when the gym's not going full blast and full tilt, we could sit people down in the gym. And I kind of like the gym as a backdrop. Kind of looks nice.
Yeah, it does look cool. The one, if you're me, and there's like one thing that's off from,
challenging about it,
from where you think it should be, then you kick yourself about it forever. And I had set up everything to stand, and you said, hey, why don't we sit down? It's like, oh, that makes sense, because we would have been standing for over 3 hours. That would have been really rough. So I just kind of pointed the cameras down instead of resetting the cameras lower, and so I don't love the camera angle, and I did not get the color temperature matched on camera 1 as well as I would like to have, because of those sodium vapor lights out there. But in the end,
I'm sure people are in a uproar.
And nobody notices. Nobody notices. And well, I mean, a few people might, but like I'm going to drive myself crazy about it.
Well, the good thing is we can work as a team, and we can work together on figuring out ways, if we're going to do that in the future, making it better, and always figuring out a way to make it the best possible scenario that we can, so that the people that are watching get the best possible quality. Don't get some crappy version of the PowerCast,
Well, especially like YouTube is trying to cater to the people who didn't cut the cord. And so with Xfinity, if you have Xfinity, or not internet, but the cable TV,
Right.
on their X1 box, they have YouTube now. So you can pick up the remote you talk to and say YouTube, and it will pull up YouTube, and you can watch the show on YouTube.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, to be able to watch stuff from YouTube on a full screen is pretty damn cool.
Yeah, and that's a direction that we've been trying to go, is produce a show that would look good, you know, somewhat good on TV.
Yeah, and we want it to be interesting and compelling. We always want the content there. 9 times out of 10, the content's pretty damn good. Occasionally we run into someone that's a little more stale than we anticipated, but and then from the quality standpoint, we're just always trying to do our absolute best to provide the best that we can. I mean, why do anything less?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why have it be any worse than it needs to be, right? Make it the best you can.
I love the episodes with Andy. I love the guy. I had never met him before. You know, we have a lot of people through here, and in the end, there's kind of a short list of people that you would just hang with.
Yeah.
And he was one of those people that I would just hang with all the time. Just
I
super
suggest that
easy.
you guys check out. You know, we did 2 episodes with him, and we also did a shorter clip for YouTube, and I think we might have done two clips with him that were kind of just for YouTube and not a PowerCast. But all the stuff that he talks about is relevant. I'd even check him out on Joe Rogan and listen to as much stuff as you can from the guy. He really has a lot of great information. But if you don't want to spend all that time, if you don't want to spend 4, 5, 6 hours, however much content he's got on the interwebs, spitting out information, just know this. He basically just said, in a nutshell, that we don't know.
Right.
And to try different things.
Yeah, right.
When it came to something like, it's not something he said directly, but when it comes to something like vitamin C, he might say yes, and he might say no.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jim, vitamin C is a good idea. But he might not say that it's a great idea to do all the time in massive doses.
Right.
Maybe you use it for 3 weeks, and when you run out, you just don't care.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh, I ran out. You're not going to go on Amazon and panic and buy, 10,000 bottles of vitamin C. Because I believe that our body does kind of work that way. I think that some of the nutrients we may be deficient in, and some of the things that we're not getting through whatever modifications we made to our diet to stop being so fucking fat. I don't think it's like we're dying from it. I think that there is a little bit of a deficiency when it comes to vitamin D.
Yeah.
People are going crazy about vitamin D, and you have some doctors that swear by it, and they really think it's an integral part of human development from the time you're a child, and people go bonkers over vitamin D. And then he said, hey, there's more recent research saying, hey, like, pump the brakes. Like, maybe it's not as critical as possible. So should you use some? Yeah. Should you have times where maybe there's not? Maybe. Like, I don't know. I thought it was great, though, because I think that's what people should be trying to do, is trying to figure out what fits into their lifestyle.
Yeah, what works for them, and there's nothing wrong with getting your blood level of vitamin D checked and maybe supplement a little bit and then see what happens. But it's supplementing at a level that makes sense and not just like bombarding your body with tons of stuff. Like the thing with vitamin C is it's not a fat soluble vitamin, it's a water soluble vitamin. So it doesn't stick around in your body if you take too much.
Right.
But maybe it does something else. I don't know. It's obviously going to do something to your urine. I don't know. I mean,
well, yeah, I mean,
because it has to get out somewhere, right?
Yeah, I mean, doesn't everything have to get like double and triple checked by your kidneys and liver? Like, isn't everything in your body
processed?
Yeah, like, aren't you in some way causing more stress with every ingestion of anything, basically? So maybe it would be wise when someone says, "Oh my God, you got to take 40 vitamin D pills a day." Maybe it's a good idea just to start with 5. Mm-hmm. You weren't taking 5 before, and somebody like myself maybe says, hey, why don't you ditch carbs? Maybe you don't ditch them all the way. Maybe you're just like, you know what, I think there's something to that. I do drink soda. I do drink juices occasionally, and I drink milk. And I drink a lot of beer. I'm going to get rid of that and see what happens.
Yeah.
Applying logic to it. has never been a logical choice for some reason. I remember Mike Menser. Mike Menser had kind of his own training principles that were kind of very different from the Weider principles, which Weider was a 30-rep guy, 3 sets of 10.
Right.
You go light, medium, heavy on a specific exercise, and you do it on all exercises, and you do 3 sets of 10 of everything, and progressively you add weight over time, but you kind of stick to that 3 sets of 10 rep range for forever, pretty much.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff that he basically taught the world, and I think a lot of us are thankful for it. But Mike Menser had a different way of thinking, where he was like one and done. He wanted to kind of hit one set and be done, and he was such an advocate of it that I think he was like bashing everybody else, which is the tendency to do, right? And that's probably not the greatest thing.
That tribalism.
Probably just being pro for yourself rather anti other people is probably a better route to go. But anyway, he would he kind of was a one-set guy, and he had other people follow his methods, such as Dorian Yates, and had a lot of success. But he had a great quote, and he said, I know a lot of smart people, and I know people that are professors and have PhDs, and they're dentists, and they're chiropractors, and they're doctors, and they're this and they're that, scientists. He goes, but for some reason, when people step foot inside the gym, the very second that their foot makes contact with the gym floor, their IQ is chopped in half. And he's like, I don't know
That's probably true. Yeah.
I don't know what's responsible for this phenomenon, but and he basically kind of went on to say that he feels like everybody thinks they know how to lift.
Yeah.
And everybody thinks they're educated, and it would be interesting to go on the street and ask people questions. I think they would really think that they knew stuff. I think that what people would find is that they know more and they know less than they thought. Because they're going to think certain things are healthy, which healthy is a weird term, as we're discovering more and more on the podcast here.
Yeah.
Something like milk. Like, is milk healthy? Cow's milk. Like, should humans even... I don't know. My thought on something like that would be, yeah, some milk would probably be good. It's got vitamin D in it. It's got protein. It's got carbs. It's got fat. Probably some milk for most of the population would probably be okay. There's a lot of the population, like myself, that can't digest it. Mm-hmm. I kind of made myself that way because I abstained from carbohydrates for a long time. But really the point is on any of this stuff is we should all be a little bit more accepting of some of the information that's being shared. Broccoli. Is broccoli good? Is broccoli bad? Broccoli might be on one list of things for causing stomach irritation, but it might be on another list for promoting good health because maybe it gets rid of pesticides and estrogens in your body or things that are harmful to your body. So it might help you shit out like plastics and some various things that get into your system. But at the same time, if it gives you tons of gas, then what good is it? So it's like, is it good? Is it bad? I would say, yeah, the answer probably lies in the middle, and that's something that Andy Galpin shared with us the whole time was the answer. And I even said to him at one point, I'm like, you went 8 years of fucking school, spent a lot of time and money and resources on going to school, and that's what you found.
And the answer is moderation. Yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah. The answer is somewhere in the middle, and we don't really know what it is. We don't know where the middle is. Yeah, somebody on YouTube pointed out that he has a little bit of a vocal mannerism of saying exactly. It's like, for somebody who has so skeptical about everything else, to use exactly as a vocal tick is kind of strange. It's like, I don't think about it that way at all, because they were talking about different things.
His mannerism.
Yeah, he's not talking about scientific principles when he says exactly. He's
agree. It's almost like saying mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. It's a way to say
Yeah.
But
he might not even know that he says that.
He may not. But he could have gone on for more and more hours than we went. It was over 3 hours for sure. He said he could have done 7, and I believe it.
Yeah.
He had a lot of interesting things to say, but a lot of it was the mindset of be open to new ideas, but don't go full bore into any of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And if I sat here and talked for 20 minutes about how good sprints are,
mm-hmm.
you'd probably be like, okay, cool, sprints are good. I'm gonna do some HIIT cardio. But the key word is some. I'm going to do some HIIT cardio. I'm going to do some sprinting. And then to ask you at your age to out of nowhere start doing actual sprints is asinine.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense at all. So if we're talking about like actually going out and doing a sprint versus HIIT cardio on an elliptical, I mean, there's a huge difference, right? And even if I was said to you, no, going out and actually sprinting is going to be your best bet. But here's what the studies show. Studies show athletes, doing 100% 6 times with as much rest as they need or whatever, sprinting for 30 seconds at a pop, yielded the best results. Mm-hmm. It would be retarded for you to go and it wouldn't make any sense for you to go and try and do that out of nowhere. Even if you just went and ran, period, would probably have a great impact since none of us have really ran in a long time.
No, that's true. And
if you just went at like maybe you jogged, and in the process of jogging, you sped up a little faster than the jog.
Right.
And I think that was Andy Galpin's point kind of all along with a lot of the stuff he was talking about when he talked about basically just taking a principle and saying, yeah, okay, I could try some of that. And that was his thing with the cardio training was HIIT training, use some steady state training, use some, sometimes you go in the gym and you do sets that last a minute. Sometimes you do a set that lasts 5 seconds. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you go really heavy and sometimes you go really light.
Right.
You try almost all of it in some variation or another and have fun. Challenge yourself in different ways. Why not?
I was talking to Treston this morning.
T-Bear back in the house.
And we were talking about nostalgically about the old days when people came in.
He loves talking about them old days.
And they had some basic idea of what they were trying to accomplish on a particular day, but they didn't have it all entirely mapped out in percentages and knew how many sets they had to do. And currently out there, a lot of people are using somebody's programming. They have somebody programming for them, or they're following a particular program or whatever. And I always thought that it was a benefit to us that when everybody was training in West Side style. Not that say that West Side is always going to be better for everybody, but we were always working within a framework. But like the specifics of it would change on a daily basis. Like you had a specific idea of like what you would want to accomplish ultimately, and you might have a goal for the day, but it wasn't laid out specifically. And if you did it a different way, or you got to that goal in a different set rep scheme, or you used a different bar or whatever, you weren't beating yourself up about it, and you didn't. It wasn't like you wasted the day or you missed a goal for the day by doing it differently.
Right. Yeah, and I think a lot of times people are going to the gym without an intent, and I think that can be a mistake.
Yeah. I
think you should have an intent of what it is that you're going to do for that day. Even if the intention is, I only want to be in there for 20 minutes, then you should figure out a way of accomplishing that. And maybe that just means that instead of going to the gym, and when you get to the gym, you change to the gym, maybe that just means you change your clothes to appropriate attire for training. And when you get to the gym, you just go like hell right away when you show up. But you have that conversation with yourself. People always talk about pre-workout and getting fired up and stuff like that, or finding motivation or inspiration. That's a great way of doing it. Just saying, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to change now. And when I get in the car, I'm going to have a conversation with myself that says, when I go to the gym, I'm going to walk right past Jim. I don't care what he says to me. Treston, same thing. I'm going right for the goddamn whatever piece of equipment it is, and I'm tearing into it. And sometimes you just need to have that mindset, because you do need an intent of the day, and you're going to get further along if you have specific goals.
Yeah.
That's a real key factor.
I think that's true. I was trolling...
You were trolling on people?
I was trolling the Reddit powerlifting forum. Somebody asked the question, what has your experience been with the culture of the powerlifting community? And there was I want to say this correctly without and be somewhat politically correct about it, but that some federations have friendlier people, and it seems like the federations, the tested federations, are not quite as friendly because everybody, maybe because people feel like the stakes are higher, or something. I mean, I know that there is a culture around USAPL, but I also know that it can be very fractured. All the other ones can be too, but it just seems like some of the federations that we have dealt with in the past are a little more on the recreational side.
I think it has to do with just there simply being more. There's more people that are participating in powerlifting kind of recreational than there are guys who are using stuff. The guys that are juicing and getting as big and as strong as they possibly. That's like a smaller percentage of the population of people that want to gain strength. I think that in some ways it might be a little bit similar to, somebody who is kind of like into a Harley versus somebody who's in a biker gang. It's like that's an extreme. Like the guy who's in the biker gang with the jacket and everything could very well be a nice guy, but he doesn't really look like it, right? But the guy who's just recreational into a Harley, if you saw him, hey, dude, nice bike. Oh, yeah, this is the da-da-da-da model, and he might say, yeah, I really love it. It's better than last year's or whatever. You might end up striking a good conversation with him, whereas the other guy, you probably wouldn't say anything to because you'd probably be like, he looks a little rough around the edges. And I think that's the case with, in the situations where guys are using stuff, it's a little bit more of an all or nothing mentality. And when we were lifting our heavy weights, we tried to be inviting to people because we wanted more people to experience it. But at the same time, it was like our thing, and we didn't really want a lot of other people to find out about it. Kind of reminds me of years ago when you found out about a certain band or a group. Like that doesn't really exist anymore because there's the internet, and you find out about everything all the time.
Right.
But it was really nice to have those kind of groups or bands that you knew of before they made it like really big. And that was kind of like your own secret thing that you had going on. And I think that's a big reason why punk rock and a lot of these kind of offshoot forms of music were super popular because some people like had it to themselves.
Yeah.
Like Jesse Burdick's a big fan of certain types of music that most other people would never listen to. But like a lot of times, even those particular bands, if they ever made it, then people were kind of upset because it's like not a little thing that they hold dear to their heart anymore.
Oh,
It's not like their own little thing anymore. I think powerlifting can be the same way, I think. So some of those guys that are way into it, and maybe the guys that are using and guys that are, they could just be a little bit more quote unquote hardcore. Not that they work harder than anybody else necessarily, but they feel like it's their own little thing. They don't want you to fucking know anything about it. They don't want you snooping around. They don't want you asking too many questions. And the other side of it too is like when you're on the natural side. I mean, there's kind of two sides of the fence there.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an elitism on both sides, I think.
Yeah, like I don't use it, I don't need it. And there's the guy who's thinking, you don't know anything, you little shit. You do need it.
Yeah.
And eventually you'll take it, just like the rest of us.
Yeah, I think that's possibly true. I think that the backlash against anybody who tests positive, and USAPL's had a bunch of them lately. Like, I think they're a little bit in trouble.
Yeah, there's been a lot of people testing positive. I think, another side of it too is, I don't know who's natural and who's not. I just know who competes, but you could kind of make an argument that somebody like, let's just take someone like Bryce Lewis. He's probably not even a great example because Bryce Lewis is short and stocky, but yet he was a really good volleyball player. So his genetics are probably actually really good.
Probably so.
But I even feel that I'm this way in some respect. I don't feel like my genetics were ever good enough to like rest on my laurels and just be like, yeah, I'm going to go in. Like, I'm not particularly like a huge person. I'm pretty big, and I've made myself big by gaining muscle and training my ass off over the years. And even before I ever took anything, I was well over 200 pounds. So I had some size to me, but I'm not some genetic mutant. And I think a lot of times the guys that are genetically gifted or the guys that just take stuff right away, a lot of times they're not really searching. They're not really seeking out what's the information that I need to get better. And so I think some of the people that are seeking that information out, and some of the people that had to go through the bumps and the bruises without ever taking anything and with trying just to fucking figure it out on their own, even when they, despite their shitty genetics, I think those people a lot of times are, not that they're more welcoming, but I think they kind of are excited to share the information because they remember what it was like because they were just struggling with it 5 months ago. Whereas opposed to a lot of the guys that take stuff are going to be guys that are, at least from my position, or at least from what I've seen, they're going to be guys that have been into lifting for 5 years, 10 years already, and they made a decision where they're like, you know what, I should probably try something different because I want to be bigger, I want to be stronger, or whatever.
What was I going to say? The thing for me, like genetically, I'm not athletically gifted. I never have been at all. I'm clumsy. I have a difficult time like crossing my midline with anything. The powerlifting is kind of the only athletic pursuit that I ever did anything halfway decent at, and that didn't happen until I was over 40. I did, I always lifted as much as I could over the years, but I didn't really get serious about it in lifting period until I was like 35, 36, something like that.
What do you think like powerlifting did for you specifically, if anything, versus just regular lifting?
I've talked about before that I like did some theater and stuff in high school, and then the next time that I was on any kind of stage doing anything other than giving a presentation once in a while for business was powerlifting. And it was always kind of shocking to me if I did well in a meet. You can have confidence, but at the same time you're like realistic about what might happen.
Yeah. And
I certainly had everything happen. I fell my first squat in my first meet. But eventually you get some sense that you're competent enough to get through. You're gonna hit the lifts that you want to hit in the course of a meet. I've said before that all of my best lifts came from meets. They were not things that I had done in the gym before.
Do you think you falling with that first squat, do you think if you maybe went to the competition by yourself and didn't have help or teammates around that you might have just been like, scratch, like I'm probably I'm good for today. I'll come back some other time and then maybe never come back.
That that's absolutely true.
But you have coaches and you got other people around you where it's like, no, you don't have a choice. They put your second attempt in already.
Yeah. No, I was he wasn't exactly coaching me, but that was Jesse back in the day. That was 2004. Yeah. And he like comes and checks me out and he's like, you should be okay. You'll be okay. And I was like
you're kind of thinking to yourself, huh?
I rolled my ankle real good, scraped up my knee, and it was a platform that they had put grippy tape on. So it was like real rough. My knee was bleeding and shit. Just like, all right, I'm gonna go. And it didn't wrap my knees from my first attempt either.
Right.
I don't think I wrapped it till the third attempt. So I obviously missed the first one because I fell. Got the second and the third. But yeah, if I hadn't had a team of people around me back then, I probably would have thrown the towel in.
Yeah, I think that lifting in general helps you build confidence, and I never want to come off as like a fitness freak, even though I guess I am in some ways, just because it's my life and it's I created this bubble for myself that's all I do is lift or talk about lifting through the podcast or through YouTube or through anything that we do at Super Training or Slingshot. It's just all sort of the same thing. But at the same time, I'm just always trying to share with people a little bit goes a long way, and if you can figure out ways of testing yourself, then you can figure out ways of transferring that over into other things. They talk about having carryover. Like how much does an incline bench carry over to a flat bench? Or how much does a close grip bench carry over to a regular bench? How much does a front squat carry over into a regular squat? Well, how much is just doing 10 to 10 squats carry over into your regular life? It can really carry over really well.
Yeah.
Who wants to do 10 sets of 10?
No one.
Nobody wants to do
one.
10 sets of 10.
Yeah.
But what a great challenge it is to go through 10 sets of 10. And I tell Jim when he walks in, hey, let's do 10 sets of 10. He's like, what the fuck? It's a terrible idea. My knee hurts, this hurts, that hurts. And we're going to do fucking 10 sets of 10? Like, yeah, we're going to do it. We're going to do it together. We're both going to get through it. I don't care if you're using 95 pounds or if I got to use 95. Like, what? We're both going to do it, and we're going to get it done. And that's going to be it. And you go through it, and you get it done. And it creates character, and it makes you tougher. It doesn't make you better than anybody. I think sometimes people can go a little bit haywire with some of that. But it does build up some mental toughness and can help build up some willpower and some dedication and telling people, hey, I'm going to get there at 9 o'clock and trying to be there at 9 o'clock and trying to start your workout at a certain time and being accountable for it all. It's all very, being in shape and being strong is a fucking pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And it requires a lot. And I don't see business as being really any different. And I think that you probably feel similar.
No, yeah, I do. And what you were talking about, that experience of going through like 10 sets of 10 on the squats or whatever exercise that you managed to go through, whatever crazy thing you whatever challenge that you put out to another person, you go through it together. It's very similar to what Andy was talking about in terms of like going through with his wife, going through like, okay, we're gonna do a protein sparing diet, or we're gonna do some extended fasting, or we're gonna do cold ice bath stuff, all that stuff. He wasn't talking about those things and saying I'm better because I do these things. If he was saying anything at all about being better, it's that like I'm exploring. Like you should be exploring too.
Right.
If you're not trying to figure out, where the edges are, you don't know where the middle is.
Yeah.
And you don't know what is going to make you feel better and what's going to make you feel worse. And we're all on a fucking journey. And if we never get out of our lane, if we never try things that we haven't tried before, if we never try things that scare us a little bit, then how do we ever grow?
Yeah. How does it help? How does it hurt? You can kind of go through that in your head. Doing 10 sets of 10 out of nowhere and using more weight than you should. How does this help? How does this hurt? Maybe it sets you backwards too much. Like maybe it's not a great idea. Like those challenges aren't always a great idea. I want to make sure people understand that too. But there's no reason to be a pussy about it, and there's no reason to not do it. There's reasons to think about it and to think about, okay, is that reasonable for me to do at this time? Or, okay, you said 10 sets of 10, Jim. How about we do 5 sets of 10? You'll probably be like, all right, fuck it, let's do that. Something else that I do with a lot of the guys that we work out with is I'll say, all right, I'm picking the first 2 exercises, and I'll pick 2 things. We get done with that, and they pick the next 2, or vice versa. I said, I don't know what do you want to do? And they'll say deficit deadlifts, 5 to 5. I'll be like, fuck, okay, we'll do that. And then when we get done with that, maybe I use the tank and try to fuck them up with that, or whatever the case is for the day. But you're trying to challenge each other. My brother was in here about 2 weeks ago, and he's like, he's doing certain movements, and he's saying he can't. I'm like, if you really can't, that's fine. But let's find stuff that you can do, or let's find a different way. So like pulling the tank backwards, he said he can't do it. I said, like, it hurts, or you can't, like, he said, I can't pull it backwards. Push it forward. How about maybe you can't pull it backwards by using the handles, but maybe you can pull it back using the rope. Like, how do we know that you can't do it unless you tried it? He's like, well, I tried pulling it that way, and I couldn't do it. But let's try this way because it's a different angle, different leverage. And then he was able to do it. We went on to do some other things. And he's like, oh man, this kills my knee. I said, there's, tons of other exercises to choose from. So let's find, and he was like, oh, a lot of times people are looking for you to say, hey, you know what? Just put your hand on their shoulder and say, hey, it's okay. You're going to be okay. You're going to be fine. This is not that big a deal. And we're not trying to kill each other in here. We're trying to get better. And I said to him, he was bitching about something while we were going through one of the circuits. And I said, that's okay. I said, I feel fine. I feel really good doing this 160 some odd days in a row. And as we were going through it, I was kind of like mumbling under my breath, but I know he could hear me. And I said, hey, what did you see me do yesterday? He's like, huh? I was like, yeah. I was like, yesterday. I was like, we're on the plane. I was like, what was I doing? He's like, you were reading. I was like, yeah, you know that I fucking suck at reading. I fucking hate reading, but I'm trying to get better at it. I'm trying to be smarter. I'm trying to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I understand that you have some struggles physically as well. You've had hip surgery, knee surgeries. I get it, but you're in here to fucking get better. Let's get better. Let's figure out a way to get better. And it's never to make anybody feel bad. It's like, what can we do to get you through this or around it? It might take me a little bit longer to read something, but it doesn't mean that I can't read.
Mm-hmm.
It means that I choose not to read because I'm not good at it, which is not a good route to go.
Well, you probably don't enjoy it that much as you're doing it, but you do have a sense of accomplishment when you finish something
100%.
that is totally worth the struggle that you went through to read it, right?
100%.
The thing that's magic about this stuff is how good you feel at the end, regardless, unless you died. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you died or you were injured or whatever in the process, and sometimes even
you made
then,
a really bad decision.
yeah. Sometimes even then you feel it's exhilarating to do something that you haven't done before, regardless.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. And there's, in this day and age, it's really popular to talk about entrepreneurship and business type stuff, and people are kind of looking for the magic in business. People are looking for the magic in fitness as well, and there's just not any magic in it. I do think that your vantage point matters, your viewpoint on what it is you're trying to do. Someone like Steve Jobs didn't seem like the most functional person in the world when it came to
relationships.
Yeah, and interacting with others. I mean, I never knew him. But at the same time, just from what I've seen, it doesn't appear that he was great with a lot of that.
Yeah.
But it seemed like he was great in other areas. And even though he didn't interact with other people that well, it seemed like he had a passion for helping people. He had a passion for helping people in a different kind of way than you might view. Like, he wanted to help people in a sense of, like, I want to make civilization better.
Yeah. Yeah, he's literally trying to change the world.
That's different than going over to your neighbor's house and helping the older lady with her groceries. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's different. The different kind of impact.
Not everybody can do that. Not everybody is comfortable.
To be honest, not everyone fucking cares, right? I mean, just that's your life and this is my life. And I mean, look, we got fucking burning houses 50 miles away. I'm not down there helping anybody rebuild anything. That's the way the world is. It's the way that things are, unfortunately. I would love to go and figure out a way to help, but just how do you figure out ways of taking away time from your own stuff that you're doing? Mm-hmm. It's very selfish. I admit that, but anyway, the point is somebody like Steve Jobs, who had a focus on how do I have this immense impact on society, ended up, $400 billion later. He ended up impacting everybody by creating a fucking smartphone.
Yeah, and people like that are not going to be the person that rushes in to help rebuild, but they might be the person that tries to solve a problem about, like, houses being flammable from the outside or something like that. I mean, there are.
Elon Musk, comes to mind. He's with his batteries and all this different shit he's got going on.
I like Elon Musk talking about, like, re-electrifying Puerto Rico with solar panels.
Fuck, man, that guy's just ridiculous.
And
he's so smart.
There's no reason why that wouldn't work.
Yeah.
And I know that they're using like blimps and stuff for phone relay.
Donald Trump should just say, yeah, whatever he just said.
Yeah, just like, here's some money and just deal with it, because yeah, I think it's more innovative. In like Africa, because my wife's done some medical missionaries work there, and they don't have hardline phones. They have, because it's so much easier to put up cell towers.
Yeah.
Something like
makes sense.
Puerto Rico, like, they may not get hardline phones for a couple of years, and maybe that time is entirely past anyway.
Yeah,
maybe we're close to being done. I mean, are you putting hardline phones in this building?
Yeah, no, probably not.
We're those of you who are watching on YouTube, we're not in our final form by any stretch of the imagination.
Still working on it.
We're in this room trying to figure out exactly where we're going to go with all this, how it's going to be.
Work in progress.
I envy Joe Rogan, who's moving into a new studio this next week. Like,
that's great. Yeah, he could really use it. He just has this giant. He just has a giant table. He has a room that's a little bit bigger than this, but he has a table that's just enormous. Takes up about 80% of that room, I would say. You can't have somebody else like watch. There's no space for it, really.
And if you think about it, that'd be awesome. Would you buy a ticket or get a ticket to go watch Joe Rogan do a podcast with somebody? I would.
Yeah, you figure like they should allow like 3 people in there every week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? 3 people for every episode. Just a really small amount of people. That would be fucking cool. People love Joe Rogan. He's good. He's great at what he does.
Yeah.
We love Joe Rogan.
Yeah, we love Joe Rogan. I think that a couple of his buds and frequent guests are going to be at Calusa coming up in the next month or so.
Oh, cool.
Calusa Casino. Brendan Schaub, who's somebody that we should get on this show. I realize that he's like very much in demand, but he's actually strong.
Yeah.
And
he deadlifts almost 700 pounds, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe he has to. I don't remember, but yeah, he's strong as shit. He's one of those guys genetically that's just a mutant.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's worked really hard for a lot of the things he's gotten as well. But, Brandon Schaub, I heard something really cool the other day. He knocked out Mirko Krokop and knocked him out really bad. Mirko Krokop, legendary UFC fighter. And I can't remember exactly the scenario, but they get paid, after the fight. And, Brandon Schaub is thinking like, I literally almost killed myself, like, training for this and fighting for this. And like, we went toe to toe and like, yeah, I came out, but on any given day, anybody can be on the other side of the fence and could get knocked out. Right. And, they get paid, and Mirko Krokop gets like whatever amount he gets, and Brandon gets paid whatever amount he gets paid, and Brandon was just like, "Fuck, man!" Like, he's like, Mirko is like, "This is it," and he goes, "Yeah, this is our life. This is it." And just Brandon Schaub at that point was like, "Fuck that. This isn't that. This like at that very moment didn't make any sense for him anymore. It's like this makes no sense." We just like almost killed each other. And I can't remember the amount of money, but there's really no amount of money that would make sense unless it was like $250K or something crazy, right?
Yeah.
But I think they got like, one got like $4K and the other got like 10.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Yeah.
But not for that kind of work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that he's been very smart, and a lot of people should be thinking that. Everyone should be thinking that way. Everybody should be thinking about a better life.
Yeah.
A better life than just having your head down and slugging shit out with some other dude in a fucking boxing ring, right?
Yeah, I think it still took Rogan to tell him, dude, you need to like stop.
Yeah.
You need to stop and you do something else. You have other gifts. You don't need to be beating people's heads in, having your own head beat in.
And some of those other guys, maybe they don't have as many other talents, so they got to focus in on the fight game for now. And
right.
But they should still, everyone, no matter what you're doing, should still be focusing in on some things that you could potentially move on to or move into at some other point. I know, being friends with John Cena for many years, he's been involved with WWE forever, and he's been busting his ass there forever. He's got to keep his eyes open. Like, what's next? What do I do next? How much more can I beat myself up? And what's worth it? And I'm 40 and da-da-da-da-da. You got to think of all these different things. And even having some people that have come in here, in the past that just have a kind of a regular 9 to 5. They don't have any time to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have any time to increase any sort of personal development. Tristan is one of those people who loves his job and loves his wife, but he spends a lot of time at his job or with his wife. He doesn't have much time to himself. He might have some time to think about a couple things on a road trip because he travels a lot, things like that. But it's something that he and I talked about recently, and you need some time to yourself. You just need some time. It doesn't have to be a lot of time.
Yeah.
Could be 20 minutes every day could be enough, but you do need some time to yourself in order to grow. Otherwise, you're just sitting there doing the same shit over and over again, and you never have an opportunity to really do anything better. And I'm not talking about a job promotion either. That's not necessarily a better scenario. That gives you more finances, which could help with some things. But that's not really the end game either.
I find that if I don't have that time that's unscheduled, I don't have to do anything in particular, I never get any new ideas.
Mm-hmm.
I never.
You need to be able to dick around.
Yeah, I never solve anything. I deal with production issues with this show all the time because just doing it by myself, there isn't anybody to check when something is fucked up. And I the other day I was working on something I with the audio version of the show, and it was just not working the way it was supposed to. It was like, this works every single fucking time. Yeah. This works every time, and it's not working now. And I had to do it an entirely different way to get to the final result. And later on, when I wasn't pressing on it anymore, when I was doing something I had totally unscheduled time, it occurred to me why it was wrong. And I don't think I would ever have come to the solution had I not had that mental space to not even be directly thinking about it. It just popped into my head. And I just don't know how people are creative unless they have creative about their lives, and let alone something like work, when they don't have that unscheduled time.
Yeah, you need time to not do anything.
Yeah.
Which people would say, I don't have time for that, but you have to figure out, and unless you're really content with where you're at, then maybe you don't need to worry about changing anything. But if you want to try to make some sort of advancements, you have to have some time that you could set aside. Through some of the videos that I do, through some of the Hustlemania videos and stuff, I try to share with people some of the stuff that I'm doing, but it's kind of hard to share with them because it's literally me doing a whole lot of nothing. Mm-hmm. So how do I film that or convey that, you know? But I do watch a lot of like YouTube videos. I try to learn stuff. I may just like take my chances with emailing and texting like 10 different people, and I'll pop around and might text message Joe Rogan and what's his name, Dana White and Stone Cold, and like see who pops up first with something that we can involve them with this show or whatever. A lot of people don't understand this or realize this, but I get fucking shut down all the time. I always have and probably always will. It's just part of the territory. Hopefully that happens less over a period of time, but that's just the way things are. And if I want to advance, then that's part of the game. Like I might try to throw someone in a slingshot, and they might say no. Mm-hmm. Hey, I'd love for you to try this on. No, I'm not. I'm not going to do that. Like, okay, fuck, okay, no big deal. You just keep trying, and you before you know it, you end up with something rather than nothing. Mm-hmm. But a lot of those things take a lot of time. I have a meeting when I go to LA this week, and hopefully that pops open some doors to like Kevin Hart and some other big names. I don't know what will happen with it. Mm-hmm. I could be wasting several hours of my time. I don't know, but nothing's ever a waste of time. It always turns into at least something else. And if not, I got to meet one extra person, and I'll just have to have that be the bonus, I guess, if nothing else comes of it, right?
Yeah, well, I think that people don't really understand what it's like on this side, really, at all. I mean, I have a pretty normal, ordinary life, and most of your life is too. And there are struggles all the time. And just we've been given the opportunity to meet a lot of people that we admire, but it doesn't mean that those people are in our pocket in any way at all.
Yeah, right, exactly. And also you want to be respectful of those people too. Yeah. You want to think about, what's it like to be Joe Rogan and to have a shitload of kids and to want to go hunting and do his podcast and stand-up comedy, and he's just doing all these different things all the time. How the hell does he have 5 seconds to do anything with anything that's not part of his plan?
Right. And
like, I don't know how that works. It's got to be something he really wants to do, right?
Right. And I think both of us get, and probably a whole lot more you than me, but get comments from people or questions or opportunities to interact with people, audience or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you have time for it and other times you don't. And it's never that you don't want to. It's just whether or not you actually have the time or you feel like you have something to say or.
Yeah. I try to communicate with people the best I can because, while I'm chasing after other people, I don't want to be not answering people that are at. I mean, I can't answer every direct message. It's just impossible. But I try to answer many of them, and I try to comment back on many things that people comment to me on my Instagram. And then on top of that, I don't think there's really a lot of other people that can say that. I say this, but I'm here.
Yeah.
And people know when I'm here. So, I mean, I'm available. Like we have people that visit from all over the place, and I'll help. There's a guy tomorrow that's visiting, or he's going to be here tonight, but I'm going to walk him through some deadlift training tomorrow. He's coming from New Mexico.
Oh yeah.
I don't think other people normally do that, but I'm available to do that as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that happens here every week. I don't know if you're going to be able to get anything like that from anybody else in the fitness industry. I don't think that I think they'd be nervous to even open up the doors to anybody in that fashion. But I know what it's like to not know what the fuck you're doing, and I know what it's like to want to get better. And all you want to do is get better and learn how to lift and learn how to exercise and have more fun with it and be stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And so if people are that way and they want to come here to 855 Riverside Parkway, Suite 10, and then come to Super Training Gym and throw down, then fucking meet me here. I'm here pretty much all the time. I mean, I do travel, but I'm here more often than I'm not. And anyway, we have a couple questions to get to. We got a bunch of people that commented on the Instagrams. I threw up a picture of me cooking this fucking giant tomahawk ribeye, 2 giant tomahawk ribeyes.
Nice.
Last night that we marinated in some balsamic vinegar rather, and it was pretty damn good. It was really good. We didn't nail down the cooking that great because they were so big.
Yeah,
and there was two
challenge.
of them. Yeah, there was 2 of them at the same time, and we should have probably kept it on the grill, but we went grill and oven, which can sometimes be delicious. But we undercooked it at first, and you had to put it back in the, which that never works. That never works. But I made a ribeye last week that I marinated in some teriyaki, and I almost died. Holy shit, that was good.
Really, really good.
Oh my God, it was just perfect. Sometimes you can marinate. Like sometimes marination is a terrible idea.
Yeah, sometimes it's not. It doesn't work out well.
Over salt or over season something, and you're just like, that ain't very good. But this was just perfect because I had teriyaki sauce, kind of the thinner teriyaki sauce, not the real thick molassesy teriyaki sauce, and I mixed it with some water, and then marinated for a few hours, and then cooked it up on the grill, and it was just fucking awesome. But yeah, last night was really good too. And I've been messing around with some different things, so I made a post about some of that. I got our boy Rhino coming in to help me again, and a post-workout, having some Gatorade and some orange juice, a la some of the information we got from George Lockhart when we had him on the podcast.
Right.
And I'm mixing that in with some caffeine from a Noon tablet, about 80 milligrams of caffeine, about 100 milligrams of carbs. There's not even any protein in it. It's just all carb-based, basically. But yeah, having that post-workout, the orange juice will restore glycogen in the liver. The carbohydrates from the Gatorade will restore some glycogen in the muscles. And anyway, I'm messing around with some of that, trying to recover from the workouts a little faster, trying to just basically not be a string bean, like not just lose so much weight and just be so flat all the time. The keto diet was awesome to get me here and for me to advance and to get to some other spots. I think it's just time for a change. Time to move on, try something a little different. So the only real carbs I'm having are from the juice post-workout, and that'll be about 4 times a week, and then just about every day I'll have a sweet potato, and other than that, I still don't get any carbs. So
that's not I mean, it's a small change that's a drastic change just because you hadn't been getting many at all.
Yeah, when I'm here working or doing something, I mean, I might eat like an apple or something like that, or some grapes or whatever. And then also the other side of the diet that has changed too is I'm not like, diving in as much with focusing in on eating so much fat, but I'm still eating steak and eggs and things like that. But I do think on a ketogenic diet, I think the natural progression of it is to start out really, really fat, and to start out with omelets that have 5 or 6 eggs and cheese and bacon and sausage and this and that. And then I think after you get past the savory flavors of some of those things, to kill off some of the savory flavors you were dealing with before from donuts and whatever the hell else you were eating. I think once you get past some of that, I think the next progression is to move into, grass-fed steak, broccoli, spinach. Like you start to move into things that are just quote unquote healthier, a little bit better options. And you're probably similar with your diet where I think that camera, oh no, maybe it's okay.
No, I think it's okay. It's okay. Come on. Yeah, no, my diet is pretty Mediterranean right now, and I'm not twisting it around in any kind of weird way. The only thing I will get a little extra just regular protein in by using protein powder and just a little bit of yogurt, and it makes kind of like a.
You just throw it right in the yogurt.
Just throw it right in the
Mix it
yogurt.
right in.
Yeah, because I'm not a big shake guy. I've never been a big fan of that stuff.
It's probably easier for you to digest it that way.
I think so too, and my gut always kind of needs the extra,
Yeah.
especially this week, man. I've been sick, and being a little bit sick throws everything off.
Kills you.
Yeah, I had one very bad day this week.
Have you ever tried Siggy's yogurt? Like, there's a ton of different kind of yogurt. It's like Icelandic or something. It's just fortified with like more protein.
Oh, really?
It has like 20 grams of protein and kind of a little, pretty small amount of it.
Yeah.
But it's very yogurty.
Yeah.
It depends on if you like that flavor. Like I like yogurt, so I don't mind it. But
for some reason, it's like plant-based organic chocolate protein
and it works
powder,
pretty good.
and it doesn't set my stomach off.
That's good.
But it doesn't taste like anything either. It really doesn't taste chocolate. But if you add the yogurt to it, for some reason, it does taste like chocolate.
I got
And so probably because it was meant to react with, I don't know, milk or whatever. I don't know. But then it tastes like chocolate. It's a little bit of a extra protein, has a little bit of a treat quality to it. Isn't a bunch of carbs or whatever. I was talking to Aaron, who I think you were talking to him too today, who has
lost 40 pounds.
Been with us off and on since like 2008 or something, but he's lost 40 pounds recently. And I said, so you're doing keto? And he said, well, not specifically. And I said, so you're just eating, being very judicious about the carbs that you eat. You're paying attention to when you're eating carbs, and you're not eating very many of them. And he said, yes. So it's amazing how much just doing that. He said, I'm not testing, I'm not doing any of that stuff. But it works.
Yeah, and everybody makes a big deal about the ketogenic stuff, and I've shared this all the time. There's not any sort of magic to any of it. Testing yourself and being in a ketogenic state, which by some people is different than others, but registering enough ketones to be quote unquote ketogenic, it doesn't ensure that you're burning any more fat than if you were not in ketosis. Yeah. It just shows that you have ketones floating around your bloodstream, which we don't know a ton about how beneficial. However, people feel that when you're in ketosis for longer and the more ketones that you produce, it can be beneficial to your brain, and you can have, for some people, they feel mental clarity. And for some people that works out really well. And then there's a clinical side of it where there's people that are sick that have various diseases, and they need to get to those points with ketosis because it's going to benefit them from a health standpoint. But in general, I don't think it's anything you need to worry about too much. I've done the ketogenic diet so many different times, and this time around I've paid attention to the actual ketones, but I haven't enjoyed any further benefits by like being deeper
pushing it further
into ketosis. I have noticed, I will say this, if I'm in ketosis for several days in a row, which is hard, it's hard to even get there. And then once you get there, it's hard to maintain that. And if you can maintain it for a week or 2 weeks or something like that, you can really start to, you just feel like you're burning fat. I don't know if there's some sort of, science behind it or whatever, but you feel like you're in a good zone. But I felt that way on other diets as well. Or once I got the diet down, I got the rhythm down, which sometimes can take months. Then all of a sudden you're like, you feel your waistline, or you see yourself in the mirror in the morning, and you're like, fuck, well, it's going pretty good. Like, I feel like I'm fucking burning fat, whatever that means.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm on a good tear, and I feel like I'm heading in the right direction.
Yeah, and it isn't always reflected in the scale weight either. Like my actual body weight hasn't changed much recently, but how my clothes fit has changed. Like how many more veins I have in my arms and shit. I mean, legs, I can see stuff. It's changing, even though my body weight is pretty static right now. It's like just above 200 pounds still.
Yeah, sometimes you got to do some pretty drastic shit, and that's why it's, why not try some different things, mess around with some different methods, try some fasting, try eating more, try eating less, try eating more for 3 weeks. In the grand scheme of things, 3 weeks isn't anything.
No.
But while you're doing it, it seems like a lot.
Yeah.
If you're like, okay, the next 3 weeks I'm going to eat 7 meals, and then after that I'm going to do some intermittent fasting. I mean, play around with a bunch of stuff, but whatever it is that you're currently doing, if it's not producing the results that you're looking for, try something different.
Yeah. Question, so people can respond to this. Who out there has an Instant Pot? I recently bought one. I haven't figured out exactly what I'm doing with it yet, but I know that I pressure cooked some chicken breasts in there last night, and it took like 3 minutes, and they were super moist, but they looked really pale. So anybody that has any experience with the Instant Pot, feel free to comment.
So I got a question that came in from, these names are always,
they're always fun.
In Blended Company. Have you ever talked about how much has changed since Bigger, Faster, Stronger, health, mental, business, etc.? If you did, I think I missed it, but that would be kind of cool on the podcast. Plus, talk about Gay for Pay.
Everybody seems to want to talk about Gay for Pay. Did you mention that in the...
I did.
Oh, okay.
Well, I only did it once. I figured I'd come clean.
Literally.
Yep. Anyway, let's see. So I haven't really talked about changes since that time period. I don't know. Everything has just been a progression. Everything has just been a slow and steady progression. That it's bigger, stronger, faster. It didn't really change anything for me. It was just sort of part of. It ends up being part of the story. It ends up being part of the plan. It did change some things at the time, because when it came out, it gave me an identity and gave people something to recognize me from. But the internet wasn't prevalent when it started, and so I didn't necessarily get like a big jolt off of that film. Although, I mean, it's just hard to say. People barely connect the dots between the two. Sometimes people totally connect the dots between the two, but I would say probably 50% of the audience is confused on, 50% of the audience knows me from Bigger, Stronger, Faster. 50% of the audience knows me from Super Training, and some other people are somewhere in the middle, and they're kind of lost on what it is that I've done or haven't done. And I think that's just kind of the way it is, but things changing from the time of the movie. I mean, during the movie, I was a powerlifter and a powerlifting coach, and somebody that had hopes and dreams of making the gym bigger and reaching more people. And since that time, the gym has grown, and I reach more people.
Yeah. Well, I think that while it was in production, and when we saw the first cuts of it and stuff, we felt like there was something there. I think that we anticipated it being bigger right away. Mm-hmm. And it ultimately, like so many of these things do, ended up getting bigger later because it was available on the internet, because it was on Netflix, because it was on Amazon, and because people pirated because they're assholes. And
more recently, people tell me that they've seen it, that they've never seen it before, which is kind of cool. But I don't know. It's just one of those things. To me, it's fucking cool that people get to see my family, and it's it's a great movie by my brother. It's a good story. It explains a lot to people, helps people become a little bit more familiar with the topic. And, it gives people some insight into powerlifting, and shows people powerlifting, shows people Westside Barbell, shows people super training, and shows people trying to train their asses off for not really much reward other than getting stronger.
And speaking of reward, Chris would probably would jump in and say that nobody got rich on the making of Bigger, Stronger, Faster.
Right.
I think that, I know recently he was talking about the fact that everybody thinks that he made a fortune off of it because so many people have seen it, and they think that just because they've seen it, somehow the director made a lot of money, and it didn't really work out that way. And, without it would, all of this would have been harder. Let's say it would have been harder, not impossible, but harder.
I agree with that. And the real question here is how much has changed since then. To me, it doesn't feel like things have changed that much. Although I guess for most people, going from being broke to having some money would make a big difference for them. But I don't know. It's just it's hard to put into perspective or into words, especially because I've had some of these feelings for so long. Like when I made the slingshot, I literally felt like I had a winning lottery ticket, and I felt that at that moment, but never really felt that sense or surrounding it in any other way except for the very day that I created it. And so that's kind of weird because I'm like, oh, and then just having that assurance and insurance in some way that that I created something that was going to give me financial stability for the rest of my life. I just felt very confident in it. I was like, this is it. I'm done. I made it. So here we go. And even though I say that, I don't feel that I just feel like there's still so much to do, so much more to explore, and so many more products to make, and so many more people to reach. So I don't know. I think maybe people have a warped image of what it would be like to, go from making what they're making now to having, just all of a sudden $1 million handed to them or something. I think they'd be surprised. I don't think things would change that much for them. Especially if they were grounded. If they were grounded individuals, that really not a whole lot would change, other than they might help out their parents, or they might, do some things that would create more comfort or create convenience. But in the end, I don't think it would change people that much. I think too that, as explosive as your growth has been at some points along the way, the reality is that it was all a progression, and you don't necessarily notice the changes around the progression except in retrospect. When you look back, you think, well, like my day looks different than it did then, and I'm living in a different place, driving a different car than I was then. Yeah, and the day is weird because I am busier, but the day hasn't been that much different because I still practice and do all the same things. They've all been the same. My dad, will talk to me about these things all the time, and my dad finds it to be amazing and fascinating and stuff. And my dad's always, my biggest fan, and he's always super supportive. But he'll say, he thinks it's cool because he's seen me just, training and working my ass off in that way. And then it morphed into all this because I had the stability of already knowing what it's like to work hard through the stuff in the gym.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so then everything else was just, a little bit more routine and easy. When I first went to make the slingshot, it didn't work. I've tried many lifting plans, many diets that haven't worked, and so I was like, oh, okay, that's normal. Things don't usually work out the first time. Let me try it again. And then luckily I tried it again and it works. Normally with lifting or dieting, it doesn't happen that easily. It's usually even a lot harder than that. So I learned a lot through the whole process, but Bigger, Stronger, Faster, I think, was pivotal in a sense that it gave me an identity, especially when we went to those trade shows in the beginning. A lot of people came up to me and said, hey, I saw you in that movie, and it's kind of forever etched in stone, and I'm really proud of it, and we're coming up on the 10-year anniversary of it, and it's fucking awesome to be a part of it.
I think, too, that the other function that it had outside of just, Chris having been in the industry is that it established entertainment and education as a part of the gym's function from the beginning.
Right.
Because he was planning Bigger, Stronger, Faster just as we were breaking off into Body Construction Zone. And the idea that there would be cameras and that we would attempt to communicate things through video and what sufficed as public or as social media at the time, which was basically like internet forums and stuff like that. It just sort of built into the DNA early, and without Bigger, Stronger, Faster, I don't know that we would have put as much effort into it as we did.
Somebody said you could give us a breakdown of what you're taking. Well, you guys know me. I'm not one to shy away too much from any of that shit. I in the middle of my powerlifting career, I used a lot. I used kind of whatever I felt was necessary to get some of the results that I wanted. But as you guys know, with other things, I don't ever weigh or measure, and I was the same way with steroids. I never, I just always thought to myself, if it's not full, it's empty. And so when it came to using a syringe, I would just load that thing up as much as I could, and I would try to do it 3, sometimes 4 times a week. Some weeks would be twice, other weeks would be once, other weeks would be 3 times. So I really don't have a great, I don't have tons of information on exactly how much I took or exactly what I took. I know you're listening right now and you're like, that is so haphazard, that is fucking crazy. Some people are enjoying that, and some people are like, that is fucking stupid. But that's what I did. And then now, and people are going to believe whatever they want to believe, but I'm literally lucky if I get to take 1 cc of testosterone once a week. That's about what I take. There's been times where I take 2 cc's of it a week, and there's been times where I take no cc's of it a week. So I have not been consistent with it. I hate taking shots. I really have always hated the process of it, and it's always just been a giant pain in the dick.
Is it forgetting to do it or thinking you're going to do it tomorrow? Okay, I should have done that today. I'll do it tomorrow.
I just don't want to do it.
Don't want to do it. Yeah.
I just it's just not a fun process.
I do remember when you guys were trying to have Quinn, and you went off for that period of time. And actually, you can see if you go back to our squat and deadlift DVD, you can see the difference in your in your face, because the kind of there are 2 different kinds of fat faces. There's a fat red face, and there's a fat not red face.
Yeah. Pull out all the red.
Yeah, pull out all the red.
Somebody to talk about upcoming guests, including when we'll hear the Fat Owl again, and when we'll hear Tim Ferriss be on. Any other possible guests coming up?
I don't know when the Fat Owl's going on, but I've mentioned it before. He's got a podcast of his own called UMSO, UMSO. You can find it on Apple Podcasts. He is in the amateur sports area, where he is currently dominating, because you do that when you go into a small category and you're gaining subscriptions quickly. But I wish him all the best. He's got a different aesthetic than this show, and he's not worried about talking too much about fitness or anything else. I kind of thought that he maybe should have gone into a different category, honestly. But so far as I know, he's doing quite well there.
Yeah, he's been a long-time friend of ours and somebody we've highlighted in many different ways. And it's always a lot of fun to have him on the podcast. And some of what I wrote in this, sometimes when I write stuff on Instagram, people don't realize that I'm kind of we have a pervert outside with a tree out there taking pictures of us. Sometimes people don't realize my style is to just kind of fuck around. So some of the stuff I write is not 100% serious, but I basically said, hey, kind of fuck you guys used to make fun of me for being fat and bloated, and then now you're making fun of me because you're saying I'm being a skinny bitch and all this other stuff. But that's not anything I've ever been offended by. It's just, what I see in the comments. People are like, oh my, holy fuck, you're getting bloated.
Yeah.
And then you lose some weight. Like, oh my God, you look great. And then it could literally be within the course of 3 days. And someone would be, holy fuck, you look huge. The next photo, you're getting way too skinny. Do you have AIDS? It's just one thing after another with that kind of stuff. And I don't care. I definitely don't care about those comments. It's not a big deal, but I was just referencing it in this, and then all these people are like, hey man, don't worry about that. You just do you. No, I fucking plan to. I always do that. I don't give a fuck about what people say necessarily, but it's just comments that I've seen.
Well, and things were very confusing for a while there because we had so many podcasts in the can, and I was releasing them according to a particular plan in my head and not chronologically. And so both of us would get fatter and skinnier from week to week based on when things were recorded. So that confused the hell out of YouTube.
Somebody's asking about the Reebok powerlifting shoe. Working on it, and it will be back. That's all I can really tell you for now. I don't know much more than that, but I've seen it. I've seen a shoe.
You've seen a shoe?
I've seen a new shoe. I've seen a more recent version of it that doesn't say CrossFit on it, and probably just a couple of weeks or months away.
We very soon have a promotion, a never before done promotion.
What? On this one here?
Yeah. But I can't
Legacy lifter.
But I can't really talk about it yet. But it's coming. It's coming.
It's a good shoe. It's good for squats.
It's coming soon. Sometime in the next couple of weeks here, we'll have it worked out. But we have to work out all the promotional stuff and deal with their ad people, and then we have to cut ads for it. But you guys will, I think you'll be shocked. That's what I think. You'll be shocked.
Somebody said, this guy, let's see, what the fuck's his name? DH Fitness Inc. He said that, how did you convince your consumers they needed your product? I think for myself, I've always tried to not really try to convince people that they need the product. I've always tried to do my best to let them come to the conclusion themselves. If you think about those ads that were running for a long time about cortisone and about stubborn belly fat, to me, that's a great form of advertising. Although they do use like a fearful tactic a little bit, which I'm not a fan of. I am a fan of letting the consumer feel like, oh shit, that's me. I could use that product. I like allowing the consumer to come to the conclusion themselves a little bit more. So, even though I'm the inventor of the product, I may say, we noticed a huge spike in Slingshot sales recently, just by me putting up a post and saying, hey, my shoulders hurt for the last 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, even in my psychology, even worked on Jim McD here. He was like, I should be using that damn thing more myself.
Yeah.
And I've been using it week in and week out because my shoulder was screaming. I mean, it was really, really hurting across the front of the shoulder. Just felt like it was overstretched. I don't know what I did to it or what happened. And for me to experience pain in the front of my shoulders is different. I don't normally have that. And so I was like, okay, anytime I bench, I'm going to wear the Slingshot. The Slingshot gave me enough relief and took away enough tension from the bumps and the bruises that you typically get from bench pressing, and allowed me to train through that injury, get a little bit of weight on me, but I was mainly just training my chest, not really training for strength. And so the weights weren't heavy anyway, even in the Slingshot. and went from the first week where I didn't have the slingshot on, pressing 185, very shaky, and it felt like shit. And you guys see me press 578, so you're probably thinking 185. Holy shit, what happened to this guy? The shoulder stability just wasn't there, and I tried to do several reps with 185, and I was pressing really crooked. The left side was not firing. I was like, oh my God, I'm like, fuck, I did something bad. So I just made a pact with myself right there on the spot. All I'm using is a slingshot. Use a slingshot for several weeks. And then last week I did 365 without the slingshot on and did 405 with the slingshot on. And even this week I went to attempt 500 with the slingshot on and missed it. But before that I got 455. So immediately, noticed the increase in strength. And then on top of that, noticed that the pain in my shoulder has subsided, so I can still lift even with the slingshot off. And more just to the point of that question, how did I help consumers to realize that they needed this product? It is a little bit hard because it was a product that didn't really exist before and it didn't exist in this form, so I had to teach people to want to purchase a product that they haven't seen before. I had to teach people that they kind of needed a product that there wasn't otherwise out before. And so it was a little bit of a challenge, but the education of a product isn't hard when the product's really good.
Yeah, and when you're creating a new product, you're looking for a niche for that product. Like, who is the consumer that's going to appreciate this product? Who's going to use it? Who's going to be willing to spend money on it? You need to know who that person is. Right. And whether or not you sat down and did a market study, you know the market well enough to know where your primary initial market was, and then where it could go from there. And you knew that the product worked in such a way that people could feel it. I think that's like particularly I think with the slingshot and the hip circle, people can feel that they work. And I think that immediate feedback sells the product for anybody who puts it on.
Yeah, like when we used to go to trade shows, we always made sure we had a bench.
Right.
Because we wanted people to try it. If I'm trying to think of a way to explain the hip circle to somebody, I'm like, you just got to try it on. You know? I'll just send you one. That way you can see, you can feel it out, and you'll get a better idea how it feels right away. And once you feel it, you'll understand what it's doing for you. I think Quest Nutrition, they moved very fast. They grew very fast, and they just had to educate people that they were there. And once they educated you that they were around, then they just need to show people, hey, we have different flavors. From that point, they need to get people to try it. So one of the things they did, they gave out full bars. At the time, most people were only giving out little
chunks,
slices and stuff, and they'd give out full bars. Now, where they really excelled as well is they brought in variety. So I might really like stuff that has peanut butter in it. You might like stuff that has mint in it. Well, they make peanut butter stuff, and they make mint stuff, and they make cookie dough ones, and they make vanilla almond nut and this and that, and they make a lot of different flavors.
And that's not a cheap decision to make, though.
No, it could be a rough one.
Yeah.
To add that many SKUs. But when you're the first to market, you better move fast because they're not the #1 protein bar company anymore. There's other people that have moved into the space that are crushing it. I'm sure they're still doing really well, but there's a lot of companies that have moved in. And
somebody just bought RX Bar. I can't remember who it was. RX Bar is like very minimal ingredient bar. It is not low carb.
Oh, is that the egg white one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is not particularly low carb.
Got like 20, 30 carbs in it.
Yeah, they're fine.
Yeah.
They taste fine. They're like to me they're sort of like a new age Cliff Bar.
Yeah. One of the problems with bars for me is that I would just eat them just sitting around. I wouldn't really I wouldn't use them the way they're supposed to be used. They're supposed to be used for convenience of traveling and things like that. And they just end up being a lot of extra calories for me. I'll just eat the shit out of them because I love the taste of them.
Yeah.
Like Quest bars. Some people like them, some people don't, but I really like the flavor of them. So I'll just sit there and crush like 5 or 6 different Quest bars.
If you need something that if you're craving cake, I have a thing for you here. Get a lemon think thin bar and eat it alongside a raspberry cheesecake
Shut down.
Quest bar. Oh shit! All right, I don't know why the cameras are shitting out on me today. 'Cause we've only been an hour. That's an hour, but
Raspberry cheesecake Quest bar. That sounds delicious.
yeah, just put it with a lemon one.
Yeah.
And it's like eating a piece of cake.
I used to eat a perfect bar a lot with dark chocolate, 100%, or not 100%, but like 90% dark chocolate. Holy shit, that was really good. Mark Sisson actually came out with a book recently. Mark Sisson is somebody that talks a lot about paleo-style diets and keto-style diets and things of that nature. And one of the things he says in the book, he's like, if you have cravings, he's like, go get some almond butter and some dark chocolate. Just fucking hammer it.
It's delicious.
It's so good. You're
It's
just
really,
like,
really good.
What was I hungry for again? I think that makes a lot of sense. And I know the assholes, the calorie in, calorie out, fucking calorie, will, get their pitchforks out and be ready to kill people when it comes to stuff like that. But I don't give a fuck what they say anymore. There's a huge difference between consuming things that are better for us than there are consuming things that are worse for us. Going and indulging in like donuts, to me, it's a pitfall. It's hard to recover from too. That's the thing that no one really talks about. The next day, you kind of have that carb hangover, and rather than thinking about eating steak and eggs or whatever's on your plan, you're thinking about eating a bunch of junk. Because it's just hard to deal with that influx of sugar and stuff.
It reignites that taste you have for those things. And if you're not eating that kind of stuff, then you stop having the gut biome to deal with that stuff. And so you got an upset stomach, or you're shitting your brains out, or whatever. I get calories in, calories out. I totally understand that. But why not eat something that's better? I don't know. I've never been a donut guy. I mean, I like donuts well enough, but it's not something I ever craved. It's not something I ever ate more than a couple of times a year.
Yeah, I don't care about donuts that much. I know people are probably upset by that, but I don't care about them.
Ice cream, different story.
I do like ice cream. I love pizza too.
Yeah.
Especially good pizza. But there's nothing worse than bad pizza, which you don't think there would be bad pizza, but there is bad pizza.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie.
Pizza that just kind of sucks.
I'm not going to lie. I had one day this week where I felt terrible all day, and I didn't eat much of anything at all. I think that I got to dinner time. I'd been busy. I felt like shit. There was no food in the house to speak of. I'd had like a Quest bar all day, and I had ice cream for dinner. I just fucking had ice cream for dinner. But
Great.
I didn't. I had a couple of cups of ice cream. I mean, like fill them up. But the next day, I wasn't thinking, when can I have ice cream again? I wasn't. Because it was a one-time deal, and it was literally. I mean, it might have been 350 calories. Like, who gives a shit? I didn't eat all day.
This guy wants to know, collision and combat. He wants to know, why is it that the stronger he gets, the closer he is to shitting himself?
He's probably not being careful about what he eats, but I don't know. He should be even better at clamping his ass together if he's stronger, right?
Yeah. Your butthole should be proportionally stronger. Maybe you're just lifting heavier and you just feel like you just have to, or maybe because you're lifting heavier, eating more.
That's a possibility.
Therefore, you're
yeah.
shitting more.
It's probably it has to have something to do with eating. I don't know why these cameras crapped out. Both of them crapped out almost exactly at the same time, almost the same way.
That's crazy.
Doesn't make any sense.
Somebody said they want to see me bench 600 pounds. Fuck, I'd like to see that too, but that ain't gonna happen. I think I'm retired. But, we'll see. Never say never, I guess, right?
Never say never, except, some things just don't make sense. People, Chris, my training partner, is always trying to talk me into the idea of competing again someday. It's like, no, no, I don't feel it. I don't know when I felt it, it was great, and I wanted to do it, and now I don't want to do it anymore.
Somebody said they want to hear about some of the training that we did today. I trained today. I did some assistant stuff, but I squatted yesterday. And I did about 4 working sets of doubles off a box. And after the 4 sets of doubles, I did 3, 6, I did 9 sets of doubles off a box for speed. So I went up to like 405 and did like 4 sets of 2. And those felt pretty good. My right leg, I have a little bit of like something, a little gnome going on in there, scar tissue or something above the knee. So I couldn't go any heavier. But I did the 4 sets of 2, and when I was done with that, I did 275 for 3 doubles with short rest, and then did another 3 doubles with short rest, and another 3 doubles with short rest. And so I did like 9 sets. I think it was like 275. Blasted through all that, and then today I came in and did tons of back work, and I was really trying to focus in on the lower lats, trying to give this a try when you're doing your seated rows. Pull your elbows not only back behind the midline of your body, but see if you can pull them downward and pull your chest up real high. That'll tap into your lats a little bit more, so give that a shot. And I was kind of doing almost like a pullover type movement too with the cable, just kind of get extra stretch in the lats. Finished with some pull-ups, and after that, messed around with some belt squats, and that was it. Then I watched Filipino Thunder squat 650 and then 680, I think it was, for a double. He smashed all his sets today. Looked strong, looked fast. My boy Pig did a bunch of work with 575. I think he did a handful of singles and then finished up with an AMRAP where he did like 4 or 5 reps, I think.
Yeah, I think that's right.
He was going fucking bonkers in there. So this is really all I know. See what else we got.
I did 45 minutes of cardio yesterday and some abs. Nothing today. Yeah, so far.
You came in yesterday, right, or no?
I was in on Thursday. Well, Thursday I used that the Rogue bent over row as a landmine and did a bunch of just pressing with that. I benched earlier in the week and pissed my shoulder off, and sometimes actually an overhead press like that actually helps, especially light. Do a lot of reps. What else did I do? I did some 45-degree back extensions and lit my back up so bad I thought it was not going to stop pulsating. Did some kettlebell swings, some other back work and stuff.
Cool. This guy talks about, he kind of had a question. One guy said, hey, don't fuck up your health. I don't plan on fucking up my health. Again, maybe you read into that wrong. I'm still going to work on getting leaner. Anyway, no plans on changing anything. I am still going to continue to get my blood work done. I'm getting some blood work done later this week, and I'll get it read and checked out very soon to make sure all that stuff's going too, because just because I'm losing weight doesn't necessarily mean I'm getting healthier.
No.
This could be a possibility I'm doing something wrong. So I want to, keep track of that and try to pay attention to that as much as I can. This guy says, squat the jerk. Connie says, talk more about losing weight while gaining strength. I just think that those two things don't go together. And I've said this many times before. Now, if you're somebody who's just looking to tighten up and you're just going to lose 5 pounds, 10 pounds, then we're talking about a slightly different story. But it's really, really rare for someone to lose weight and gain strength. I guess you could also make a case for someone that really has never lifted before.
Or somebody who's taken a long break.
Someone who's taken a long break. Somebody who's really, really heavy and can afford to lose some weight, and they're just not very strong in accordance to their own body weight anyway. But in most cases, you lose weight, let's just say weight being anything more than 15 pounds. You lose anything more than like 15 pounds, and your strength's going to be in trouble. There could be one lift that excels. Perhaps your deadlift goes up, or perhaps your squat feels better, or something. That occasionally happens, but usually most of your lifts will go down a little bit. They'll feel different. Your leverages will be different. If you wanted to lose weight over a long period of time, it's possible you could lose 10 pounds in the year and absolutely the entire time get stronger. You can go from the 181 weight class to the 165 weight class over the course of a year and perform a lot better in that lower weight class. But even that is kind of artificial, because the weights that you hit on the platform and the way that you set up to lift in a meet and the weight that you weigh in on the day of the meet is not what you actually weigh anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of that can be deceiving. But we have a lot of people in the fitness industry that will try to share that you can lose weight and gain strength at the same time, and it's just not true. I haven't really seen people do it. I know that people can point to an outlier and say, oh, I know Billy so-and-so, he lost 40 pounds and benched an extra 50 pounds. So of course there's going to be people that have done it before. But in general, it's not something that's going to happen. It's not something that somebody can program for you, in my opinion. I don't think it works.
Yeah, I think that maintaining as much strength as you can is probably the more reasonable goal. And once you're done, once you get to the weight that you're going to maintain at, then you can come back, and you might come back stronger than you were before. But that's not doing two things at the same time. You're not, as they say, riding two horses with one ass. You really have to focus on one thing or the other.
Yeah, it wouldn't be any different than, if you went outside and did 10 40-yard sprints,
Mm-hmm.
and you came inside and deadlifted. If I'm trying to sell you on the fact that you're going to be stronger after you do your 40-yard sprints, I'm just fucking lying to you. You're not going to be stronger.
Right.
You're going to be worn the fuck out. And, furthermore, when you're in a caloric deficit, your energy levels are just going to be less. And it does consume a lot of energy to lift heavy weight.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not that one rep max, but just the commitment of being in the gym longer and the commitment to gaining strength. It's an enormous commitment. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of time.
I guess the other exception would be trend.
That's right.
Because that happens. People do lose weight and appear to get stronger, at least.
Yeah.
When they're enhanced.
Yeah, right. Especially if you went from not being enhanced to being enhanced. That would be, like I said, there's going to be some outliers to the whole thing, and certain drugs can help make you leaner, and you can manipulate. But once we start talking about that 15-pound rule, 15, 20 pounds, usually you're going to lose some strength.
Yeah.
Do a podcast, assuming that you haven't, about the process of starting your gym products. Do you feel that building your personal brand is the key driving factor to your business success, or is it a combination of things? I think this would bring tremendous value to myself and others in the age of self-branding, social media. What came first, and what's the focus moving forward? Keep building the personal brand, or set it up so it runs without you being the face.
There's a lot to unpack there.
So I guess let me start out by kind of saying, like, it's hard to tackle a little bit in some fashion here, but I feel that the stuff that I do personally has a direct impact on the business in a lot of ways. But at this point, stuff that I post on social media and stuff that I do via the internet in any form is all a side thing to the actual business itself. They're all little pieces of the puzzle. Like, this thing makes up 5%, that thing makes up 5%, that thing makes up 5%. But an actual effort where I'm actually thinking about the actual product itself or driving the actual product itself can sometimes be a little bit different. And sometimes there could be direct, quote unquote, direct messages or direct commercials where I'm in the gym and using the hip circle and I'm talking about the product, and I start and finish the conversation with talking about the hip circle in the context of like a post or something that we did via YouTube or whatever. Then there's other ways where I just post something up and I just happen to be wearing something. Like, I'm wearing gangster wraps and maybe I don't say anything about it, but it's just a lift or whatever. So there's a lot of different ways of going about it. I think the more that I do, I think the more that the company can do. And I think the two do go hand in hand, even if it's not directly related to each other. Mm-hmm. Even if you can maybe make an argument, like if someone looked at some stats and they said, okay, you have, 300 something thousand followers now. And when you had 200,000 followers per post that you made, you actually made more money when you had less. I don't look at any like numbers like that. I don't think that way. I don't ever dive into a lot of different things like that. But I do think that me just training really hard and working really hard and showing people and being transparent and showing people what the fuck I do is really important to the business itself. And I don't necessarily have to talk about the business itself in order for that vehicle to move well. But I also want to make the business somewhat independent of itself. I think that if I was to pull out of the parking lot here and get fucking wiped off the face of the earth, I think that the business would still go on and would still be very strong. Without me, it might take a little while to recoup and figure out what to do. But I think at this point, the business doesn't necessarily need me anymore, especially with how involved my wife is and how involved the team is. So that was something I was working towards for a while. For the last 2 years, I've been working towards that because I was thinking to myself, the fuck happens if I'm gone? Like if I'm just not here, if something happened to me, then the company can't really progress. But now it's in a position where it can. At least I feel it can.
Yeah, well, sort of the beginning of that was giving a social media presence to some of the lifters in the gym and having them working at the trade show booths,
Yeah, absolutely.
So that you don't have to be there every minute because, I mean, the reality was that in the early days, those events would just kill you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they'd break you down. And so, in my opinion, there's a lot of different ways you can do this. A friend of mine, Andy Frisella, owns First Form Nutrition. Another friend of mine, Todd Abrams, runs Icon Meals, and those guys are killing it. Those guys are doing big, big numbers. Those guys are just crushing shit. But not everybody knows they own that business.
Yeah, it's a different thing.
Yeah, some people do and some people don't. Andy Frisella openly talks about First Form all the time. He talks about it on his podcast. He talks about how he's got like 15 or 16 stores out in St. Louis, and he's done a great job with having these supplement stores. They sell other people's products in the stores. As an online presence, he only sells his own product. He does consulting for other big businesses and worked with a lot of other great people, and he's a very strong business personality. But at the same time, he's not necessarily like the poster guy for his company, but he is living it. He is into nutrition. He is into supplements. Todd Abrams is the same way. Todd Abrams is shredded. He does bodybuilding shows. He looks fucking awesome. He's in his 40s, and he looks awesome, trains hard, works hard, wakes up at like fucking 4 a.m. every day and works his ass off every day. And I think the real key to the entire thing is just, it sounds cliche, but it just is literally just working hard and not allowing any of the other companies to gain ground or to make any advancements on you. You got to work hard every day and try to have some forward thinking and be out in front of some of those other companies. But for me, passing the buck and allowing people to do their job, and me, I got to be okay with that. That's those decisions are tough. When I watch someone edit something, I'm like, I would have done it differently. But at the same time, I don't want to fucking edit anything, so I'll let it go the way it needs to go, But I also realize too, if I'm sitting there and I'm like, why the fuck don't they get it? I don't understand how the fuck did they edit it that way, or why did this get done this way? It's like, well, I need to stop and say, okay, well, I've edited like 1,000 of my own fucking videos, and I've seen you edit stuff, and I've seen my brother edit stuff, and I basically know how to fucking edit things. And a lot of times it just didn't dawn on me like, okay, well, you have a pretty good eye for that too. And maybe they're not thinking this way because you haven't taught it to them yet. And so teaching
some of its perspective.
Teaching the group as they come in is the key element to the entire thing, and the key element to the company being self-sufficient with or without me around.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we've known and probably still know some people who are the face of an organization without really being the owner of the organization, because the owners are more behind the scenes people. They're not good front people, and so they hire good front people.
Yeah, and also I think some of the stuff that we do here, I think there's reasons why other people don't do it. Like bringing in other people from, bringing in some of the best powerlifters and bringing in some of the best people that we have contact with to the gym and bringing them on the podcast. A lot of people don't do it because I don't think they don't feel there's enough return in it. And there kind of isn't. They're kind of right in some ways, but in the long run, I think there is. And that's, for me, I'm in the long game. I'm not in it to do it for 3 years or 5 years. To have Ed Cohn come here and to do a YouTube video with him, to try to convert that into dollars and cents, you could look at some numbers and figure out if it did anything for you, but I don't think that makes any sense. To me, what makes sense is to have friends in the industry, continue to do the things that we want to do, continue to do things that are fun, show people how much fun you can have while you're kicking ass, while you're getting stronger, while you're getting in better shape, and just continue to put one foot in front of the other over a long period of time. And at the end of the day, people are going to say, wow, fucking look at them. Look where they ended up.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be a culmination of a very long process.
Yeah, and I think that what people don't understand about that particular process is hard to put a return on investment number against a promotional activity. Or you can do it against direct response advertising, but it's very difficult to do it against just general promotional activities, which some of this is that. We have sponsors for this show, so it's not exactly the same thing as like your YouTube stuff, but still.
Right.
And then the other thing that people don't know about, because they probably never took an accounting class, is that there's a thing on your balance sheet called goodwill. And there's a dollar amount associated with that. Yeah. And it is really a wild ass guess, but you can tell when your goodwill is rising and when it's falling.
Yeah.
Because your sales will rise and fall along with that. And the more goodwill that you have within your industry, the more sustainable your business ends up being overall. And the more that it's associated with that particular brand, the more value it has if you ever wanted to transfer that to somebody else,
No, that makes a lot of sense. And that's, exactly what we're trying to do is we're trying to build goodwill within the community.
Yeah.
We're trying to make people understand that we give a shit and that we care, and they should kind of know that by the thousands of videos and thousands of free all the different free content that we've pumped out, kind of over the years. He kind of also, mentions, if there's anything, coming up or any sort of other changes, but really not really. I've been, just working on similar things. I got new hip circles coming out, new slingshots coming out, but most of the other business stuff is similar. The only real big change is, I don't know, it's just kind of funny because there's always a lot of different things going on, but in the midst of working on a show, which we've been working on for 1,000 years, we're also working on a movie. So
right.
And towards the end of this month, me and my brother are cruising around LA, talking to all kinds of different people, and you guys will see some of that unfold. I'll share a lot of that on social media, which will be a little different. I'm not sure how many other movies. I don't know how much they've shared, but we intend to share quite a bit of it on social media, just to be different, just to share stuff as the process is going. And I think what I've learned from doing a podcast and doing stuff in the gym and taking some of the people that have come here for the podcast and turning that into articles for the magazine, taking a podcast, turning that into an article for the magazine, or taking a YouTube video that I've done with somebody, and we turn that into a podcast. There's a lot of different forms of media, and you can take a form of media and turn it into something different, and it has totally different context and reaches an entirely different audience. So some of these things that we do, like interviewing Mark Sisson and interviewing Jim Abrams, believe it or not, the Jim Abrams from Naked Gun. He's a big keto guy, and I'm fucking really excited to meet him because I've been a longtime fan of Naked Gun and Airplane forever. We're going to release some of that content on the internet, before it ends up in a form of being in a movie. And I think a lot of times people are scared of that because they think it's going to kill something. But maybe they're right. I don't know. But
you'll find out.
I'm paying for it, so I'm going to just kind of do it the way that I think is best. And I think that when people see some of the stuff that comes out for the movie, I think it will just create more interest rather than less. So why not?
Why not? Shall we wrap this one up before we lose our third camera?
We should. We should take her in for a crash fucking landing.
Alrighty.
Just on the last note here, I think I've kind of mentioned it already, touched up upon it a little bit, but I got my boy Stan Efferding helping me out a little bit with diet stuff. We're just bringing in a little bit of carbs. Any questions you guys have on that, you can hit me up on the old Instagrams. You can follow along. I'm going to be sharing more and more information with you over there. And I wanted to thank all the people that hopped in on the 24-hour fast with me. I ended up taking that fast into a 48-hour fast, which ended up being kind of fun, to be honest with you. And to have that much control over your diet felt really good. Multiply your hustle, multiply your muscle. May all your shits be tapered. I'm at Mark Smellybell on Instagram and Twitter, and I'll catch you all later.
Shout out to our sponsors, 8band Apparel at 8bandstrong.com, bodybuilding.com for all of your supplement needs, Compex USA for cutting-edge muscle stim machines. Get an additional 28% off when you use the code PowerCast on all but the lowest priced model. Reebok.com, home of the legacy lifting shoe, the official shoe of the PowerCast. Increase your bench at howmuchyourbench.net. Get 15% off slingshots with the code PowerCast. Power, the only strength magazine available in both digital and print at thepowermagazine.com. And Precision Nutrition. Get the free course especially for our listeners at get.pn/PowerCast. That's get.pn/PowerCast. I am at the Jim McDonald on all the social medias. Follow the show on Instagram. We are at Mark Bell's PowerCast. Whoop, whoop. We're out of here.